I'm Allan Scott. I've been in business for 35 years. I've sold or been involved in 9 exits. I've started 11 companies and 1 fiasco company. I run a 7-figure solo business with no staff, and I've distilled everything I've learned from those experiences and 3 decades of building businesses into lessons that truly matter for achieving a new rich life, in the hopes that one person, just one person, that's all I'm hoping for, one person listens to the show, learns something that changes their life and allows them to create their very own one-person empire. Today's episode and all these episodes from Series 1 have only been possible thanks to the generosity of our headline sponsor, www.pitchcapital.com, who cares about entrepreneurs as much as I do. And honestly, this company is something I wish existed, which is why I was proud to partner with them. I've raised capital, I've been on both sides of the table, and the fundraising process is brutal. 6 to 12 months of your life grinding, trying to create decks, doing emails, getting rejections, and creating meetings that go nowhere. It's a full-time job without working on your company, but Pitch Capital is the world's first AI fundraising platform that automates your entire capital raising journey. You simply upload your business details, and in 90 seconds, by the way, is less time than it takes me to read this piece of information to you. In 90 short sections, in 90 short seconds, their AI goes to work. It automates everything. It automates your entire capital raising journey. 90 seconds, you've got an investor-ready pitch deck and financial models. Their AI then matches you with the right investors. They have investors from pre-seed to Series C+, who are looking for businesses like yours. And the AI handles everything from outreach to booking you meetings and even closing deals through their secure escrow system. They've basically created something that compresses 6 to 12 months of nightmare into something that's actually efficient. If you are raising capital right now or want to test out your business with people that know, check them out. If you go to my show notes in YouTube, or if you go to the show notes in wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you can't find it for whatever reason, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Allan Scott in the world currently, which is quite mad. I will send you the link as a founder, take you straight to the top of the list, in fact, if you go through me. And I hope you do. I hope you reach out to them. They are incredible. Their founder is a guy called Franco, and he's been there. He's built businesses. He's sold businesses. He's invested in businesses. He's helped others get investment. I sent a lot of emails out to a lot of sponsors and got a lot of opportunity. I must be honest, but nothing was as impressive to me as this company was. So if you're raising capital, or if you've got capital and looking to invest in great people, great businesses, then definitely there is a link for that as well in the show notes. But enough about Pitch Capital, even though I think they are worth a whole lot more of my time and yours. Let's get into it. The $750 million company that tells customers not to buy. Yvon Chouinard. Now, I am going to butcher names today. I am from Cape Town, South Africa. English is my first language. But these words are not words I would have said on a daily basis. And 30 years since leaving Africa, I still have never come across a name like Yvon Chouinard. And I only assume it's pronounced Yvon Chouinard. I did look it up, but I'm also dyslexic. So names are not my forte. Ask my producer. But this is his anti-growth philosophy. One of the most radical business strategy ever seen isn't about growth, but resistance to growth itself. Yvon Chouinard once told a consultant who was asked why he was in business. He said, "We give away millions to environmental causes. Our bottom line is the amount of good we accomplish over the year." The consultant's response? NSFW? That's bullshizer. If you really cared about giving money away, you'd sell the company for $100 million. You'd keep a couple of million and put the rest in a foundation. The consultant was right. Chouinard was lying to himself, but discovering why he was really in business. That revelation built Patagonia into a $750 million company that's still, to this day, 100% family-owned after 45 years. Today's story is about a climber who became a blacksmith, and then became a businessman, and then became a philosopher, who builds rock climbing equipment so reliable that lives depend on it, then applies those same standards to making t-shirts, who runs advertisements telling customers not to buy his products, who takes 6 months off every year to fly fish while explicitly forbidding his team from contacting him. This brings me to today's source material. It's a book called Let My People Go Surfing, The Education of a Reluctant Businessman by Yvon Chouinard himself. Originally written as an internal handbook for Patagonia employees, now a manifesto for everyone who wants to build a company that lasts a century. This is the story of Yvon Chouinard, not the outdoor gear mogul, but the craftsman. A story of how one man's refusal to play by normal business rules didn't build a profitable company alone. It proved that quality, not growth, is the only sustainable competitive advantage. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply refuse to get bigger. He's saying no to scaling. Act 1, the spark that changed everything, the reluctant businessman. Yvon Chouinard never wanted to be a businessman. In his own words, he said, I always avoided thinking of myself as a businessman. I was a climber, a surfer, a kayaker, a skier, and a blacksmith. We simply enjoyed making good tools and functional clothes that our friends wanted. Then reality hit. Chouinard and his wife, Melinda, owned 2 assets, a beat-up Ford van and a heavily mortgaged, soon-to-be condemned cabin on the beach. Their company, heavily leveraged. Employees with families depended on their success. After we had pondered our responsibility and financial liabilities, one day it dawned on me that I was a businessman and would probably be one for a very long time. Most founders would respond by doubling down on conventional business practice. They'd be getting serious. They'd be playing by the rules. But Chouinard, he went in the opposite direction. In his own words, he says, it was also clear that in order to survive at this game, we had to get serious. I also knew that I would never be happy playing by the normal rules of business. I wanted to distance myself as far as possible from those pasty-faced corpses in suits I saw in airline magazine ads. If I had to be a businessman, I was going to do it on my own terms. And those terms: work hard to be enjoyable daily. Come to work on the balls of our feet. Go upstairs 2 steps at a time and be surrounded by a friend who could dress however they wanted, even barefoot. We needed to have flex time to surf the waves when they were good, or ski the powder after a big storm, or stay home and take care of a sick child. We needed to blur that distinction between the work and the play and the family. That wasn't naive idealism. This is strategic clarity about what matters most. The 80% philosophy. As you know, this is a philosophy podcast that happens to be in a subcategory of business and entrepreneurship, because I think it all starts with mindset. It all starts with philosophy. I think entrepreneurship is the greatest philosophy anyone can undertake, because it is the greatest self-improvement tool that exists, in my honest and humble opinion. Chouinard describes himself as an 80%er. I always thought of myself as an 80%er. I like to throw myself passionately into a sport or activity until I reach about 80% proficiency. To go beyond that requires an obsession and a degree of specialization that simply doesn't appeal to me. Once I reach that 80% level, I'd like to go off and do something totally different. And that probably explains the diversity of the Patagonia product line and why their versatile, multifaceted clothes are so damn successful. And this is profound. Most founders obsess over 100% mastery of one thing, where Chouinard masters 80% of many things. And the result? A product line that serves real people with diverse interests, not specialists pursuing perfection in one niche, narrow domain. When I help people start podcasts, I always say, niche, niche, niche. I say, follow the Americans, niches to riches. You want to get as small as possible. You want to solve a problem so perfectly that everyone in that little niche comes to you for the solution of that problem. And then you can charge a lot, profit. But This man, when I read his book, and I read his book as a joke, because so many people said to me, Jason, you take off, 3 months a year to travel or do something random, and you start companies and then change industries and change categories and change. And I said, well, I like to do something at like 69%. And they laughed and said, oh, you'll love the book. He does it at 80%. And that intrigued me. Tom Bracow, who became friends with Chouinard later in life, tells a story that captures this perfectly. During an ice climbing expedition on Mount Rainier, they reached a steep patch of black ice. Bracow suggested they rope up for safety. Chouinard's response, no way. If you go, then I go, and I don't want to do that. That is like catching a taxi in New York on a rainy day. It's every man for himself. Bracow's reflection? It's been helpful to be Yvon's friend. He makes me think about things in new ways. That's the pattern throughout this story. Chouinard doesn't follow conventional wisdom. He thinks from first principles, often reaching conclusions that sound insane, until you realize he's obviously correct. The question that changed everything. It's the early 1990s. Patagonia is in a crisis. They're growing too fast. They have 8 product lines, 3 distribution channels, and complexity is everywhere. Chouinard and Melinda, along with their CEO and CFO, seek advice from a Dr. Michael Cummey, who'd run strategic planning for IBM and who turned Harley-Davidson completely around. Cummey lives on an enormous yacht. He wears a captain's cap and has a squeaky and heavily accented voice and lots of restless energy. Before he can help, he wants to know, why are you in business? And Chouinard explains the history, how he considers himself a craftsman who happened to grow a successful business, how he'd always dreamed of sailing off to the South Seas once they just had enough money. Chouinard says, we told him the reason we hadn't sold out and retired was that we were pessimistic about the fate of the world and felt a responsibility to use our resources to do something about it. They explained their tithing program. 1% of all profits, or 10% of gross sales, whichever was larger, was always given to environmental organizations. Last year alone, he says, we gave $1 million to over 200 groups. Our bottom line reason for staying in business was to make money that we could simply give away. And Kami stops and thinks. And then he says, I think that's bullshit. If you're really serious about giving money away, you'd sell the company for $100 million or so, you'd keep a couple of million for yourselves, and you'd put the rest in a foundation. That way you could invest the principal and give away 6 or 7 million every single year. If you sold to the right buyer, they would probably continue their tithing program for you because it's simply good advertising. And Chouinard, he protests. He says, we're worried about what would happen to the company as well. Of course we are. And Kami says, so maybe you're kidding yourself about why you're in business. It was as if a Zen master had hit us over the head with a stick. But instead of finding enlightenment, we walked away more confused than ever. Act 2, the red string. The quality obsession. What we see in Chouinard's story reveals a pattern completely different from every founder we've studied to this point. The competitive advantage of refusing to compete. Ford, well, we know he competed on manufacturing. Edison, he competed on invention. Disney, he competed on entertainment. Waltons, he competed on simplicity. Jobs, he competed on integration. Kroc competed on platform. Rockefeller competed by not competing and to dominate. While Chouinard, he competes on quality so extreme that competition becomes irrelevant. And the real reason he's in business after months of struggle, Chouinard finally figures out the answer to Kami's question. I realize now that I was trying to do was to install something special into my company at a critical time, lessons that I'd already learned as an individual and as a climber and a surfer and a kayaker and a fly fisherman. He'd always tried to live simply. By 1991, knowing what I knew about the state of the environment, I had to begin to eat lower on the food chain and reduce my consumption of material goods. Risk sports taught him something, to never exceed your limits. You push the envelope and you live for those moments when you're right on the edge, but you don't go over. You have to be true to you. And the same is true for a business. The sooner a company tries to do what it is not, the sooner it tries to have it all, the sooner it will die. So he gets a revelation. The revelation is this. Teaching the classes, I realized how much Patagonia as a business was driven by its high quality of standards and classic design principles. The products we made, each feature of every shirt, jacket, or a pair of pants, simply had to be necessary. I knew after 35 years why I was in business. True, I wanted to give money to environmental causes. Of course I did. But even more, I wanted to create, in Patagonia, a model for other businesses. A model that other businesses could look into in their own search for environmental stewardship and sustainability. I love that. Beautifully said. Just as our pitons and ice axes were modeled for other equipment manufacturers. This is the key insight. You see, Chouinard isn't in business to make money or even give it away. He's in business to prove that a different way is possible for all. To show that you can build a profitable, sustainable company that prioritizes quality, environment, and employee happiness, and succeed for 100 years to come. The best is not the biggest. And here's where Chouinard diverges most radically from every conventional business book you will ever read. He says, can a company that wants to make the best quality outdoor clothing in the world be the size of Nike? Can a 10-table, 3-star French restaurant retain its 3rd star when it adds another 50 tables? Can you have it all? And his answer is no. The question that haunts him throughout the 1980s, as, by the way, Patagonia is evolving to become something else, is that exact idea. As he grows, as he gets bigger, can he maintain the qualities that he's built up to now? And I want you to think about this. Most founders obsess over growth. Bigger equals better. More revenue, more employees, more market share. Scale, scale, scale. But Chouinard, he argues the opposite. He says quality and scale are inversely correlated. He says they're against each other. He says, I struggle to think of a large company that made the best product for anything. My best experiences, let's call it restaurants, for example, are individually owned restaurants. They're not chains. The only exception, by the way, that he could think of was the iPhone. And that's obviously the largest company in the world by market cap at the time. And his conclusion was this. Everyone would be better off if everybody just tried to make the best of whatever it is they were doing and never worry about the size. This leads to one of the most important ideas that he comes up with, something he calls MBA, management by absence. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see I did a whole story on this. Management by absence practices a theory of management by not being there. While I wear-tested our clothing and equipment in the most extreme conditions of the Himalayas and South America, somebody else was doing the work. Every year he takes 6 months off. May through November, he goes fly fishing. He explicitly tells his team not to contact him. Why? Because he believes a company needs someone to go out and get the temperature of the world. For years, I would come home excited about ideas for products, new markets, or even new materials. But perhaps there's a deeper reason. Stress creates growth. If he was the only one able to answer questions or make important decisions, then the company wouldn't continue to grow and wouldn't be able to do as much good as possible. And this echoes his philosophy from nature. Organisms need stress to evolve. If Patagonia can't function without him, it's fragile. If it thrives during his absence, it's anti-fragile. Doing risk sports taught me another important lesson. Never exceed your limits. The truth is, the same is true for business. He has another principle. It's called the 7th generation principle. During the crisis of the early 90s, Chouinard teaches philosophy classes to his employees. He realizes we had to look to the Iroquois Indians and the Native Americans and their 7th generation planning, not to corporate America, as models of stewardship and sustainability. So you might be asking yourself, what is 7th generation planning? As part of their decision process, the Iroquois had a person who represented the 7th generation in the future. Every decision was evaluated by that person. How will this affect people 7 generations from now? And Chouinard, he adopts this philosophy into Patagonia. If Patagonia could survive this crisis, we had to begin to make all of our decisions as though we were going to still be in business for 100 years. We would grow only at a rate we could sustain for that long. And by the way, this is the opposite of that venture-backed startups optimizing for 10x growth and quick exits. Chouinard is optimizing for century-long sustainability. And what is the result? The result is decisions that seem crazy in the short term, but so obvious in the long term. Doing this podcast episode has really made me think. I am one of these guys, right? Cold in the stable. I am one of these guys. I am the guy who builds companies to flip. I build companies to sell, that solve a problem for a short period of time because I know I'm slightly ahead of the puck. And if I build it right and I make it easy and foster, I can get people interested in buying it. It is so cold. But Chouinard and Guinness and people like that, and we will talk about in future episodes, they don't. They're thinking 100 years. They're thinking generations. And it changes everything. And I love this. Act 3, the one-person empire toolkit. Your inner craftsman. What can we learn from Chouinard's quality obsession? How do we channel his thinking about becoming unprofitable idealists while still being profitable capitalists? Well, first, make the best, not the most. The first part of your mission statement should be, what is the best product I can make? Because it will be the cornerstone of your business philosophy. Striving to make the best quality product is the reason you get into business in the first place. Naval Ravikant, the philosopher business person, he has this beautiful quote, which I'm going to paraphrase, but it goes something like this. You only market because you can't sell. You only sell because you can't make an incredible product. I love that. Chouinard says, don't be among the best. Don't be the best at a particular price point. Just make the best. Period. I love this. It's so simple. This isn't marketing. This isn't sales. It's operational philosophy. He said, because we have a history of making the best climbing tools in the world, tools that your life depends on, we are not satisfied by making the second best clothing. Trying to make the best product also inspires us to create the best childcare center and the best production department, and to be the best at the jobs that we have. Quality cascades. When you demand perfection in products, you demand it in every other aspect. Most companies, let's be honest, they do the opposite. They optimize for cost. Then they try to improve quality. Chouinard inverts this. Charlie Munger would love that. He optimizes for quality. Then he figures out how to make it profitable. Good design is a little design as possible, says Dieter Rams, who, by the way, is the head of design at Braun. Complexity is often a sure sign that functional needs have not been solved. Chouinard's example is Ferrari 1960s versus the 1960s Cadillac. Ferrari's clean lines suit high performance. Cadillac adds useless chrome gingerbread fins at the back and breasts at the front. Once you lose the discipline of functionality as a design guidepost, the imagination runs amok. So I want to ask you, where right now are you adding complexity instead of solving problems? What could you right now remove? Second, innovate. Don't invent. When I die and go to hell, the devil is going to make me the marketing director for a cola campaign. I'd be in charge of trying to sell a product that no one needs. It's identical. It would be identical to its competitors. And it can't be sold on its merits. I'd much rather design and sell products so good and so unique that they simply have no competition. And here's the key. Uniqueness doesn't require invention. Successful inventing requires a tremendous amount of energy, time, and money. And the big inventions, they are rare. They are so rare that even the most brilliant geniuses think up only a few marketable inventions in their entire lifetimes. Innovation can be achieved much more quickly if you start with an existing product, idea, or design. Let me give you an example. Patagonia didn't invent bunting fleece. The idea came from a guy called Doug Tompkins, who wore a brushed wool feeler pullover. Since it could only be dry cleaned, it was impractical for outdoor use, but it spawned an idea that led to a polyester bunting, Cinchilla, which became the host of microfleeces. Like creative cooks, we view originals as recipes for inspiration, and then we close the book and do our own thing. This is the cook and the chef framework applied to products. Don't copy, remix. Take inspiration, then innovate. If you get a chance, check out my blog. I did a newsletter on chefs and cooks on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Allan Scott, and you'll see my posts. I try and post every week about in my newsletter, which is called The Entrepreneur's Edge, giving you the edge for you. It comes mostly from the books I read, information that I learn while doing this podcast, but not the information from this podcast. So it's completely different. And I try and make it as absolutely useful as humanly possible and as simple to understand and execute against as I possibly can. The third rule, quality equals profitability. This is Chouinard's most counterintuitive insight. Our philosophy does not hold that finance is the root of all business. We recognize that our profits are directly tied to the quality of our work and our product. The truth is, most companies try to maximize profits through cost cutting, increasing sales through artificial demand, and hammering the rank and file to work harder. And Chouinard, he does the opposite. Whenever we are faced with a serious business decision, the answer almost always is simply to increase the quality. He cites the Strategic Planning Institute's idea of profit impact of market strategy, a report that he read that said companies with high product and service quality reputations have, on average, a return on investment rate that is 12 times higher than their low-quality, lower-priced competitors. I have a friend that only shops at Primark. I shop elsewhere. My belief is that I will buy an item, a jacket, a cap, a piece of clothing, that will outlast every single thing he will ever buy. 7 generations. I will pass on my clothes to the next generation. For me, buying cheap is a false economy. It doesn't work. I've learned this through Chouinard. During the Great Recession, Chouinard spoke to the surf industry leaders. He said, as CEO of one of the largest surf companies mentioned, and they laughed, and he said, okay, as someone who is a CEO and surfs, I said, stop using organic cotton when the recession hit. Chouinard asked about sales. His sales were down. They were down 20%. The surf guys' sales were down 20%. Chouinard's sales were up 30% that year. Why? Because their company and others in the surf industry were barely hanging on because they didn't understand that their customers had changed. Quality was no longer a luxury. It was simply expected. Companies that compete on price die when markets shift. Companies that compete on quality survive and thrive. What's the fourth rule we can learn? Grow naturally, not artificially. He said, we have no desire to expand Patagonia beyond the specialty outdoor market. He said, first of all, growing only at a natural rate, that's our goal. When our customers tell us that they are frustrated by not being able to buy our products because of constant out-of-stock situations, then we need to make more. And that leads to a natural growth. He said, we do not create artificial demand for our goods by advertising in Vanity Fair or GQ or on buses or inner cities, hoping to get kids to buy black down jackets from us instead of going to North Face or Timberland. We want customers who need our clothing, not just desire it. And this is radical because most companies manufacture demand through advertising, and Chouinard only produces when real demand exists. We never wanted to be a big company. We wanted to be the best company. And it's easier to try and be the best small company in the world than the best big company. And the result? With no outside investors, no debt, 100% family owned after 45 years, the result is $750 million in revenue. Chouinard says, unlike the government, we cannot rely on an expanding economy to burn our fat away. It is far easier for a company to make a profit when it's growing at a simple 10 or 15% a year. We have been profitable in years when we grew only at a few percent by increasing the quality of our product, by maximizing the efficiency of our operations, and living well within our means. Isn't that such a powerful thing? We end every single episode with a challenge. So I want to change your life. That's my goal. That's my dream. Just one of you. Just change your life because of this podcast. Because of the work I put out every single day. The best I can do. And this episode's challenge is to identify one place where you're optimized for growth instead of quality. It could be a product feature. It could be a customer segment. It could be a distribution channel. But I want you to ask yourself, if I optimize this for 100-year sustainability instead of just a 10x growth, what would change? If I looked at Chouinard's framework, the sooner a company tries to be what it is not, the sooner it tries to have it all, the sooner it will die. So what are you trying to be that you're not? What's growing that shouldn't? Then do something radical. Slow down. Or stop. Most businesses die from growth, not from its absence. Yvon Chouinard is in his 80s now. He still owns 100% of Patagonia with his family. He still takes 6 months off every year to fly fish. He still makes products that he'd want to use himself. And here's what he's built. A company doing $750 million in revenue with zero debt and zero outside investors. That's given away tens of millions to environmental causes. That repairs your jacket for free. Forever, and runs ads telling you not to buy new ones. A company that's been around for 45 years and plans to be around for at least another 100. And here's what I find most remarkable. Chouinard built his entire company by rejecting every conventional business principle. Don't grow. Don't advertise. Don't go public. Don't take investment. Don't go to pitchcapital.com. Don't compete on price. Don't hire MBAs. Don't measure success by revenue, but instead, make the best product, period. Grow only at a natural rate. Hire unemployable misfits. Give employees flex time to surf. Take 6 months off every year and give away millions in profit and plan to be around for 100 years, not 10. Every business book would tell you this is insane, and yet Patagonia succeeds while most conventional businesses fail. Because Chouinard understand something fundamental. Quality is no longer a luxury. It is sought out by the consumer, and today it is expected. Every founder we've studied has taught us a different lesson. Ford has taught us integration democratizes. Edison taught us autonomy enables invention. Disney taught us control protects vision. Walton will teach us in the next episode simplicity scales and fancy fails. Jobs teaches us integration creates magic. Kroc teaches us that platform beats products. Rockefeller in the last episode taught us that domination beats competition. So what does Chouinard teach us? He teaches us the most important lesson maybe ever. Quality beats growth every time. You can build fast or you can build right, but you cannot build both. You can maximize revenue or you can maximize product excellence. Never both. You can chase market share or you can serve a niche perfectly. Not both. Chouinard chose right with excellence and niche, and he built a company that's lasted 45 years and will last 100 more. While most companies die from growth, from trying to be what they're not, from exceeding their natural limits. In his own words, he says, the sooner a company tries to be what it is not, the sooner it tries to have it all, the sooner it will die. I believe the way towards mastery of any endeavor is to work towards simplicity, Replace complex technology with simple knowledge. The more you know, the less you need. From my feeble attempts at simplifying my own life, I've learned enough to know that you should never have to or choose to live anything more than simply. I love this. I love this idea that he understands the simplicity of life. I love this idea that he's understood that it is about subtraction, and not addition, that everything changes. I love that he understands that to live more simply isn't about an impoverished life, but a richer life in all the ways that truly matter. And that's not just a business philosophy. That's a life philosophy. And the question isn't whether you can grow bigger. It's whether growing bigger really serves what you actually want. What actually matters to you. Revenue, quality, scale, sustainability, market share, customer loyalty, growth, longevity. You get to decide. You can't optimize for all of it. Chouinard proved this. In the next episode, we'll explore another founder who took yet another path. Someone built not through quality or growth, but through systematic experimentation at unprecedented scale. Until then, find out what you're growing, what you shouldn't be growing, and remember, the best companies aren't the biggest. They're often just the ones that last. On your terms, based on what you judge as success, so that you can live a rich life.